G'day and welcome to another long and drawn out video brought to you by the Whackers. That there is my Tibetan Spaniel, Mr. Corbin Dulles. See this? See how he's sitting? You know what they call that? They call that a sploot. That is my dog splooting. Aren't you? You're doing the sploot. This here is a Ten-Tec Orion 2. Firstly, we're going to assume that the 9 megahertz IF output modification prepared by Rick Williams, VE7TK, we're going to assume that the VE7TK mod has been done. I'm not going into how that mod is performed on the radio because this radio I obtained with the mod already installed. What I will be describing is basically from that 9 megahertz IF output tap, how do we get it to HDSDR and connected to the Noble Radio NR Pan 3K Panadapter as recommended by Noble Radio. You know, there's a little bit of a learning curve in getting the thing calibrated though. So that's basically what I'll be aiming to smooth out for anybody watching this video. I happen to get this radio at the spur of the moment. It went about like this. A guy came on air while I was, rag chewing on 80 meters. And he said, oh, yeah, hello, how you going? I got an Orion 2 for sale. Another guy said, oh, yeah, I've already got 2 of those and I've got... And the other guy, both these people, all these people I was talking to, I have very great respect for. The guy who said, oh yeah, I've got 2 of them, instantly signaled to me that these were a very good radio. So I then asked the other guy offering this radio for sale how much. And I think I went and bought it either the next day or very soon afterwards. So I brought it home. It developed a problem. The guy with the 2 Orions, I then sent this radio to him and he repaired it for me. When he opened it up, he noted that it had a mod in it which enables you to connect Panadapter. The mod is known as the VE7TK IF circuit tap. Now that tap enables me to hook up this Panadapter, the Noble Radio NR Pan 3K. Okay, so my splooting dog is now splooting over the other side of the room and having a bit of a groan. And the reason he's having a bit of a groan is because he's lost his ball underneath this little bookcase. Okay, and he's constantly doing it. Oh, here it is up there. So he will sit there and groan until we retrieve it for him. There we go. There it is, buddy. Okay, we're going to throw it. We're going to give it a chuck. Hey? Wouldn't it be just great to have this radio to have a point and click interface via HDSDR? So we've done that. It's not quite as straightforward though. I have got it to work. There's a couple of problems. Initially I set it up with this laptop here, right, through a hub which has got a maze of USB connectors attached to it, and found that there was noise, as can often happen, being introduced into the radio via the USB. First of all, when I went to transmit on this radio with HDSDR, the HDSDR screen went haywire. Well, it just froze actually. It didn't go haywire, it just froze. And I would have to unplug, right, and restart HDSDR and then plug this back in again. Now I noticed that this afternoon when I plugged this back in, when I plugged that thing back in, it was introducing noise and allowing the noise floor here to go up a bit. I'm in an urban area, and on 40 meters here you can see at the moment I have an S5 of noise. But what I was finding was when I did this afternoon and had to reset, I unplugged it and the noise level dropped. It's not going to do it now because I am now going to change computers. So what Noble Radio recommend in their instructions is that you cat control the radio with Ham Radio Deluxe, and you tell HDSDR that you are going to be doing thus. So what's going to happen, here we go again. What comes with the Noble Radio Panadapter is these two cables. This one is the one that comes out of the spare RCA connector, and then that goes direct to the Panadapter. Okay, this here is the output cable of the Panadapter that will go to this small laptop where I will be installing HDSDR. Cool bananas. The cable that's not shown here, of course, is the CAT cable. The CAT cable is separate, and that is going via a serial to USB adapter, a very old prolific type. We're going to show you shortly how to get around the fact that it's really, really, really old, and Windows doesn't like it, but we're still going to be able to get around it. Okay, so hookup of the actual Panadapter. Trusty torch around the back here. So the positive lead of the Panadapter goes into that 13.8 volt RCA connector. The Panadapter itself plugs into normally the spare, see right down the bottom there. The idea is that when the mod inside this radio is done, you take the 9 megahertz IF tap to that spare connector, that connector which is marked as spare. That goes to the front panel of the Noble Radio Panadapter, and then there is another connector that goes to amp key 1. Amp key 1. What that does is that when the radio goes into transmit, it drops the receiver level such that it doesn't have a major spike. You don't see a major spike in the band scope. So the IF output becomes the IF input to the Panadapter. Okay. Now the CAT interface, what I have done is, this is the Orion to serial, right? Serial data, all right? Now it goes to a bit of jiggery pokery. There's an adapter there, and then it goes to a cable, right, which runs up there, and then buried in this little knot of cables there is a very old prolific serial to USB adapter. The next thing you need to do basically is to go to zadig.akei. Okay, you got that? Anyway, you go to that link and you come to here, Zadig USB driver installation, and what you do is you just download Zadig 2.5. Now the one thing about Zadig is it's not an installer. You just drop it somewhere. It's a portable or self-contained executable. So just put it somewhere where you can find it, like in your downloads or folder or on your desktop, okay, and then just launch it. The documentation says you should launch Zadig as administrator. So you right click on Zadig and then choose run as administrator. And You say, yep. All right, and this window will come up. When this cable is plugged in, you'll find that if you go to the device manager, which you can do easily by going Windows X and then pressing M, this window will open up, the device manager, and you'll see that two other devices have been made available called bulk-in interface, and they're actually bulk-in interface 0 and bulk-in interface 1. Okay, so what we do is we use Zadig to help us install the appropriate driver for one of those interfaces. We then in Zadig have a drop-down list whereby it gives us the drivers which are not installed with any kind of or the devices that do not have any drivers associated with them. There is an option, in case you want to be totally confused, to list all devices, and it shows all the devices and what they're currently that are connected and are currently active. But in this case, depending upon what computer you've got, it may have had actually a really long list of devices there and what they are currently driven by. We just turn off list all devices. You might notice here that it says ignore hubs or composite parents, and just basically leave everything else as it is. So it's the bulk-in interface interface 0. It's showing that it's got no driver associated with it, but the default is basically what we're going to use as the target driver. You'll see if you click down through here that it gives you various drivers that you could possibly use, and its default will be the WinUSB version blah. Okay, not that one, not that one, not that one, but this one. And then we just go ahead and we install the driver. Just because I'm pedantic and like to see what's in other menus, I can basically just leave it as it is and install the driver. Insert elevator music here. Installation process, blah 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 blah. Yay, the driver was installed successfully. Close, and now we can see that rather than having none written there, we now have the driver being WinUSB to WinUSB. Now it's having a little bit of a fit there. Okay, what you can do to check this, I suppose, is yank the plug out of the Noble radio device, and it will suddenly say that it's not there anymore. Okay, it will suddenly say that it's not there anymore. Okay, and now it's listing other devices, whereby if we plug it back in, okay, go back to the list, bulk-in interface 0, there it is, the driver's loaded for it, and interface 1, because we haven't touched it yet, and I don't think we need it, is still as none. So we can now close Zadig. So that, I believe, and if we now go to the device manager, it's basically showing one device, one bulk-in interface still not loaded up, which is fine. We don't really care about that, I think. Where is it? Where is it? Not in the serial port adapters, network adapters, other devices. Wonder where it put it. There it is. It's a universal serial bus device, bulk-in interface. There we go. All done. Now, just a couple of more things to do. Having used Zadig now, for the first time ever, thanks to Noble Radio for pointing this utility out. The next driver that I have to sort out is the prolific serial to USB adapter, which comes out of the serial port of the Orion 2 and goes into the other spare USB connector to drive the CAT interface for Ham Radio Deluxe. So this one here, that's coming from the Noble Radio Panadapter. All right, that one goes to as pointed out earlier, and then this one goes to the serial port of the Orion 2. As I mentioned before, the prolific based serial to USB adapter is very old, and the driver, which I've kept for years, is just being now rejected by Windows 10, as is Windows 10's want. So I was left scratching my head. I didn't want to go out and muck around with any more USB adapters. I've got two serial to USB adapters. One is from a Palm Pilot, and I used to use that on my TS2000. That worked very well up until when I got rid of my TS2000, and I still use it to program other people's Kenwood radios with. And then I had this other serial to USB adapter because that Palm Pilot serial to USB adapter doesn't work with everything. So I went out and bought another one, and it happened to have the prolific chipset in it, and it works on other stuff, including the Orion 2, if you can get a driver for it. Zadig was new to me before being introduced to it by Noble Radio, so thank you. And all I did was I went through, so the interface, let's see, options, list all devices, and it is the USB serial controller. Okay, we've already been through bulk in, the USB serial controller. And it was just random. I just thought, well, I wonder whether any of this, I wonder if Zadig can help out finding me a driver for my ancient prolific. So I went through, I selected USB serial controller, and then I just went through each one until I found one that worked. And it would appear to be this one, USB serial CDC. That, without a problem, allows my ancient prolific serial to USB adapter to work. After going through the other three, right, which didn't work, and I thought, oh, well, this one's not going to work, and it ended up working. So now we can actually start up HDSDR. And today I'm actually going to install the beta version, HDSDR 281 Beta 3. It came out in March 2021. Or thereabouts. So I'm going to take a punt and install the beta version of HDSDR, and fairly straightforward doing that. Traditionally, after installing drivers, it's pretty much the norm to restart your computer. The next thing you got to do is, with the Noble Radio Panadapter package comes this CD, okay, and you need to grab a file that is located on this CD. What you do is you go to the drive, and basically you just copy, right? You just drag and drop this file here over to the C drive, program files, x86 HDSDR. Just drop it in there. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to configure Ham Radio Deluxe. So you need to install Ham Radio Deluxe, and then you need to configure the connection. The connection being the CAT interface between the Orion 2 and your PC. In this case, the ancient prolific serial to USB adapter. The Noble radio docs say that we work best with Ham Radio Deluxe as a mediator between HDSDR and the Orion 2. You only have to install Ham Radio Deluxe and then configure the connection between that software, Ham Radio Deluxe, and the CAT interface going through the computer and then to the Orion 2. When you go to use the whole setup, you launch Ham Radio Deluxe, and then you make the connection to the radio, and you can configure Ham Radio Deluxe to connect to whatever radio you want automatically at launch. And then that can go in the background. You don't have to configure anything else or customize anything else in Ham Radio Deluxe. You can do a fresh install of Ham Radio Deluxe, configure the connection, the interface between it and the radio, and then all it has to be done is just be sent into the background. You don't need to do anything else with Ham Radio Deluxe at all, unless you're familiar with it and you want to continue to customize it, which I do. There are several sources that say you can use the last free version of Ham Radio Deluxe. I use the paid version. I pay for it. If you're wondering about whether to pay for Ham Radio Deluxe or not, all you need to do is pay for it once. You only have to pay for Ham Radio Deluxe once, and then every update for the rest of your life is for free. So you'll always have an updated copy of Ham Radio Deluxe. It's up to you whether you want to pay ongoing service and support subscription fees. And normally, I will pay for that every couple of years because I believe that Ham Radio Deluxe is a worthwhile piece of software, and a worthwhile piece of software worth supporting the programmers and Ham Radio Deluxe staff for. But anyway, generally what needs to happen is that you need to install, according to Noble Radio, Ham Radio Deluxe. If you don't, then it's up to you from here on to figure it out yourself. But where we go from here now is with Ham Radio Deluxe in mind as a mediator between the Orion 2 and HDSDR. And it's worthwhile that you do so. So once you install the prolific driver using Zadig, go to the device manager and find out the port number assigned to it. Device manager, just hit M at that point. And it'll be down here, ports, common LPT, USB serial controller, COM6. That's all you got to remember, COM6. We can close that now and we can launch Ham Radio Deluxe. Okay. Waiting. Now I've already configured it, okay, but let's just say, for example, we go new, company Ten-Tec, radio TT Orion, we put in COM port 6, I've put in the speed of 57600, there's no CIV address because it's not an ICOM. All these I think were checked by default. And if you want to, from here on, you can just go, you can click this, always connect to this radio when starting HRD rig control. Backing out of that for a moment there and going to the preset, I can basically just do that now. Always connect to this radio when starting HRD rig control. And that's all you really need to do. That's all you need to do. You just connect, right? And up comes, this is the default interface for the Orion 2, according to Ham Radio Deluxe, and I don't have to touch it. I have another version of Ham Radio Deluxe on another computer here, and I've heavily customized the interface. But we can just put this into the background now. Goodbye. Just before we launch HDSDR, I'm going to say here that I'm going to be moving pretty quickly into its configuration. There is a number of calibration areas that need to be done, and I'll be moving through it as quickly as possible to try and get you all the hell out of this video, because you're probably sick of hearing me so far. But I'll be basically pointing out and directing to you exactly what needs to be done. Whoa. Hello. Turn the volume down. There we go. Just muted it. We've got a radio which is totally black, and yet we've got a band scope which is picking up information, and a signal strength meter which is just going off its head. So all this stuff has to be adjusted. Okay, here we go. First thing, let's hit stop. F2, stop this crazy thing. Next thing, we go into options. Okay, and then select input. The input you want is the one I've selected here. Now, I think I've seen it called something else, but it's basically got to have RTL 2832U OEM or something like that. Right, that represents the EXT IO file that you dragged and dropped from the Noble Radio provided CD-ROM, right, to the working program files folder for HDSDR. So you need to select that. The next thing you need to do is you jump out of there and choose SDR device, okay? And this should come up. That then basically indicates that you're on the right track now. And you can see at the top there, ext IO RTL 2832.dll, right? That's the DLL file that you copied off again, the Noble Radio supplied CD-ROM, and placed into the working program files folder for HDSDR. Take note of everything here, okay? This is where things need to be set, including the options down there below. Note here, let's set this, right, wherever it might be, let's set it to 25. Okay, 25 or thereabouts. It might go to 25.4, doesn't matter. This is Noble Radio's suggestion or recommended starting reference point for the tuner gain. That is 25 dB. Okay, we can close that. The next thing you then do is go to options, and then open up the RF front end configuration. You then set SDR on IF output, which is controlled by, in this case, HRD, DDE. For the moment, we'll just leave it in full sync in both directions. And in the IF frequency, Noble Radio suggests you put in 47 megahertz, basically. That's my reading of it, 400 and... well, those aren't all that good. 47, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that would be the equivalent to 47 megahertz, wouldn't it? I ended up putting in, this is just by trial and error, the global offset to be 2100. Okay. The additional offsets per mode in hertz on LSB is 50. On USB, it is minus 5950. If you're wondering what the hell this is doing, what I'm doing here, I'll tell you shortly. In the meantime, you might just want to do this. In this one, nothing. In this one here, I've put in minus 2983. And the other ones I haven't calibrated yet. Mirror RF spectrum in general, and the rest can all be left as is. What I found once I had this up and running was that the tune frequency was not actually lined up with what was actually being displayed on the radio. So you've got to calibrate some differences in here, and that can only really be done by trial and error. But these are the figures I've come up with. When you go to put the radio on and you control the Orion 2 with HDSDR, you'll go, oh my goodness, the tune frequency is not actually in sync with the frequency being displayed on the Orion 2. So these are the offsets which I've had to come across and you have to put in. Obviously, this is something that is expected in software-defined radio land, and as can be seen here, is suitably enabled in the HDSDR software. And then you click OK. Don't forget to configure DDE, options DDE to HDSDR. Sun's come out after about 2 weeks of rain. Options, DDE to HDSDR. You choose the DDE format being HRD, the sync type tune, and you may need to click manual connect, but it's already saying here status connection OK, so we're all good there. You might remember at the start of this when we first launched HDSDR that the S meter was impossibly high. This is what we'll calibrate next. Quickly, you need to unplug your antenna. So with the antenna unplugged, it's only brought it down to like, plus 20. Where on the Orion, well, that's what it should be. So what we do is we go into options, calibration settings, S meter calibration. According to the Noble radio docs, the noise floor should be about minus 112 to minus 114 dBm. Obviously it's nowhere near that. Then enter a value of minus 112, minus 112, right, where it says correct level. You then go calculate, and it does some magic. Okay, you'll now see that your S meter has come down to around about where it should be. Okay, this can be fiddled with, but this should get you going. We now just click OK to get out of there. So now we have an S meter level, which is a bit more representative of the noise floor here at the moment. Okay, and if we go to RMS, that's around about where it should be. Might be a bit high, but you can incrementally adjust that to how you think it should really really be. Just a trap for young players is you might find that you're not hearing anything. It could be that you might have bumped the trackpad or something stupid like that, and you'll notice that this sets the squelch. And this will be flashing, squelched, squelched. And you might miss this. You might miss this because you're too, or in my case, I was too wound up about the fact that why am I not hearing any audio? The problem is that I might have accidentally bumped and clicked on this scale. And you can click on it either with the left button, the right button, the trackpad, it doesn't matter. That's where your squelch is set by clicking on that meter, and you'll see this very hard to see or hard to define red inner ring. To turn the squelch off, you just click down here somewhere and you'll see that it all reverts to normal. A bit of a trap there, so just beware of it. Now all the while, this little blue box here, all right, is set to RF. That's the RF gain plus 25. This relates to what we saw previously, and that is if we go to the SDR device, these are the device settings. We set this up to 25. This is the recommended setting from Noble Radio while we do initial setup and checkouts. Okay, that can also be set here. Okay, to enable adjustment, right click on it and this little slider will appear. And you can click anywhere to make this adjustment, but bear in mind that they want it to be set at 25, please. There we go. And to get rid of that slider and lock it in, you right click on that blue box and you're good. Moving right along. Options. TX, mute RX audio on TX. Right, we're on the home stretch. Sorry it's taking so long, folks. It's, yeah. Takes about this long to set it up. Anyway, a couple of things. Now you can probably hit start around about now. Currently, I've got it configured for basically 3 receivers. So what you're hearing there is just the output of this laptop. And that is the receiver which is built in to the Noble Radio Panadapter. So let's just click, of course I've turned the Orion on. But now we have a point and click interface for the Orion 2, which is just simply amazing.
Sometimes I go in the hospital, so I have to have that, but I don't mind. Yeah, I'll line up over.
So you'll have 3 receivers to use now. Just mute that. You've got 3 receivers now. You've not only got the sub receiver on the Orion 2, but you now have a 3rd SDR receiver that you can synchronize with the main VFO here. Getting a bit tired now, so I'm sorry about that, but hopefully it'll all be worthwhile. I can tell you now, having an Orion 2, a beast which is from, somewhere around about 2003. Unfortunately, the sweep function on the Orion, wasn't all that amazing. I'm sure it was probably useful, but we now live in the world of SDR, so we turn that off, and with the 9 megahertz IF tap combined with the Noble Radio Panadapter, we now have probably a legendary radio achieving godlike status now, whereby we can now just point and click on HDSDR and have our Orion go to it.
Went into Daisy Hill, just out of Melbourne, out here with all the kangaroos.
And we'll just turn the SDR receiver on.
Yankee Oscar from VK3XXY.
Okay, so you can see there's a bit of a delay between the two receivers, and I think that can actually be sorted out, but I haven't done anything about it so far. A couple of quick extra things, okay? You'll see here that wherever you go, you might find that there is a spike. See that spike there next to the red line? So he's just come back up. But even if we go to anywhere random, you'll see that the where it lands, there will always might be this little spike here. And there's also a consequent dip. I haven't managed to figure out how to get rid of the dip, okay, but it doesn't really matter. But you can get rid of that spike wherever you land. I'll just put it here now. You can see that like the frequency is following, all right, wherever you put it. Now the way to get rid of that spike is to go back into options, calibration settings, and you click the DC removal calibration for RX. You can look this up, but I'm just going to give you the straight answer. Put 1 in here and then go high pass auto. Click OK, and you notice the spike is now gone. Spike gone. Spiky gone. There is this consequent dip though. I don't know how to get rid of that yet. The only thing to check now is TX on whatever 7.141.5 at the moment. So we can tune up there. So let's say if we tune up, okay, and see what happens, you'll see a reduction in the receive, right, when it goes into tune, which I'll push now. Okay, so everything's fine there. I'll just do a quick test. I'll open up the receive here. Hello, is this frequency in use? Hello, is this frequency in use? Okay, so the test is, let's turn the receiver off for a sec. The transmit test is this. You go into transmit and you should see the band scope suddenly dip like this. Okay, this is VK2HEY testing, and then it comes back up when you dekey. What you have to watch for when you go into transmit is that noise level comes down, all right? So you don't see this huge orange-red spike. And that is the amp key 1 connection to the Panadapter, telling the Panadapter when you key up to drop the receive level dramatically, so that it doesn't pick up your transmit signal in the inbuilt SDR receiver. The other thing you need to watch out for when you're going to transmit is that the whole thing just doesn't die, which means that you've got an RF problem of some sort. Now, I did have an RF problem on this machine, okay? This machine, this is where I originally installed all this that I've gone through over the past hour or however long it's been. It's been long, sorry about that. I did that all once initially on this computer here. Again, I had that USB hub with multiple USB devices connected to it, and I had RF issues. Changed to the shorter cable, still had an issue on one band. Decided, and then discovered that the USB circuit was introducing new noise into the noise floor of this radio. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna isolate the computer completely, or isolate the radio completely to one computer, and that solved the problem. I think when you've got multiple USB devices, possibly the hub and amateur radios hooked into that as well, there's a greater chance of you introducing noise into your radio. In this case, the only USB devices I've got connected anywhere near this radio is this one computer. I've got the Panadapter USB cable and the other USB cable which goes to the Orion's serial data connector at the back of the Orion 2. Sorry it's taken so long. I hope it's been helpful for anybody who has an Orion out there and wants to give it a new lease of life. I think this is just amazing. It's an amazing radio. It has fantastic receiver in this radio, but look how good it is now that we've got HDSDR talking to it. So I hope it's useful. I've basically made this video primarily for you, but secondary is also for my terrible memory. If I have to do it all again, at least I've got a recording and an archive that I can refer to